Now, I don't know many anglers who don't like fishing with Sweetcorn, the golden grain. It catches all year round, it's super versatile and cheap as well. So it's a firm favourite for many anglers, and that's exactly why in this Match Masterclass, I'm going to show you a few different ways to get the best out of a tin of corn. So let's get straight into it, talking about fishing with Sweetcorn. Like I said, so many people's favourite. I'm going to show a few different ways today that you can get the most out of it. But I am going to concentrate on this time of year. So we're now coming into the depths of winter. It's going to get colder and colder, although it's actually all right today. It's quite warm and the fish activity is mega. So before we go on to the fishing, just a bit of housekeeping with your corn. I've got it here in my tub and I just put it in a little bit of lake water to stop it drying out. You don't want it to float. So just store that on your side tray straight in there. And the first way we're going to look at is just fishing with corn straight out of the tin, doing absolutely nothing with it. You can open it, put it in some water and you're ready to go. And we're going to look at fishing on the pole. You could do exactly the same if you're not a pole angler and you like fishing a waggler. This sort of same style and the same steps would apply. But this is the setup that I've got. So I've got orange slick elastic. I haven't fished this lake for years, so I don't know how big the fish are or anything. Like you can see, my net's completely dry. We've not had a go yet, but there is so many fish in front of us. So we've got 016 mainline, and I've got a finesse carbon slim, which is 0.4 gram. So it's relatively heavy, but also it's got the finesse bristle, and the carbon stem is also quite important. Corn's very visual. I'm going to show you more of that as I'm fishing, but you want to lay it in and try and catch their eye. And sort of mimicking that with the shotting pattern. It's the standard shotting pattern that I always use, which is a strung out bulk, but it's strung out for a much bigger proportion of my rig. Probably half of my rig is actually my shotting pattern, because I want to create, like I said, a slower fall, catch the attention of the fish, and hopefully we can grab them that way. I've got a 4-inch hook link and a slightly bigger hook, because you can bury it in the bait. I've actually still got a size 14 hook. I don't think you need to go very small. So that's the rig. Like I said, we haven't actually wet a line yet, so I'm just going to do it straight in on the camera. So straight out of the tub, any of the grain of corn that you fancy. And then feeding wise, now obviously here, because I'm pole fishing, I'm going to have the luxury of a little pot in the end, which I can just pop in. I'm going to go about 10 grains of corn. Like I said, because it is a little bit warmer today, I feel like we might catch a few fish. So, but I wouldn't feed too positively. You know, you've got to remember, like I said, these methods that I'm showing you will work all the way through right into the depths of winter. So when it's really cold, you know, you can feed like 2 or 3 grains, because like I said, it's very visual. And with a bit of movement, you can catch their attention. So be careful not to spill those on the way out. And then I've picked my firebank marker, I've plumbed up just touching on deck, and I'm just going to tap those in from a little bit of a height. I want to make a little bit of a noise, just so they know there's a bit of bait going in. And now look, this is why we need that carbon stem float, because we can lay our rig over the top of that. And we're hoping with that noise that they're going to find that bait relatively quickly. So I don't know how this is going to go. So I haven't fished here for so long, but with the amount of fish activity, I'd be surprised if something hasn't heard that going in and sort of trying to think about what's going on. Now I'm going to hold it fairly still, but probably every 30 seconds or so, what I'll do is I'll just lay that rig in again, just to try and catch something's attention. Like I said, if you've only fed, you know, if you're thinking if it's really cold now and you'd only fed 4 or 5 grains of corn, there's not a lot of bait there to attract them. But it is good because, oh, there we go, straight. It is good because it's a bait that they eat all year round. And that means that you can at least feed something fishing like this. And like I said, you can do exactly the same on the waggler, but what you'd have to do is you'd have to catapult it. First fish is going to be a little skimmer. All these carp topping, and we kick off the session with like a 10-ounce skimmer, 8-ounce skimmer probably. But it was a bite. It shows that how quick those fish actually find it. So let's just go back out and repeat that. I was then about to lift and drop and do it again. So again, I do like to pick a bigger grain of corn for the hook. And because we got that bite relatively quickly, I'm probably going to feed the same amount. I'm going to be a little bit, see, you can probably hear all these fish or see them. There's so many fish topping. Back out there again. And you've got to fit, this is a relatively big lake as well. I don't know how many pegs are on it, but I would say 50 or 60 at least. And I've just had that bite in, I don't know how long I was talking to you, but a minute or so, just by tapping in a few bits of corn. It's amazing. Just gonna do it again, just from a height, just so they can hear it. There we go. It's amazing how attractive corn is to every type of fish. Like I said, that was a little tiny skimmer, that one. But I'm pretty convinced it's not going to take too long for a carp to be shown as well. So the importance of that carbon stem float is I could see bites all the way down. If I, wow, there we go. That has gone straight in, and this is definitely not a skimmer. Now this is where I find out if I've got the wrong elastic on. Like I said, I don't know how big these fish are in here now. They could be, oh, it's come off. Never mind. Right, let's see if we can do that again. Part of me thinks that potentially was foul hooked, you know, that went off real train. It didn't give me the best bite. Look at this, it's proper spun me up as well, as all foul hooked fish do, but it happens to everyone. Don't worry about it, take your time, get yourself out of any muddles and then reset again. But what I might do, because I potentially think that that could have been foul hooked, I'm going to feed it slightly differently this time. And I do this with my pellet fishing as well. First of all, you want to make some noise to make sure that they know that there's feed there, but once they know it's there, it's about sneaking it in. And this is one advantage about a little pot that I've got on the pole. It's why I think pole fishing is so effective. And you can't do this if you are going to fish with a rod and line. We have got a rod and line method coming up, so don't worry if you're not a pole angler. We haven't left you out. There's other ways that you can catch on corn, but I'm going to try and catch one more like this. But what I'm going to do is, once I get out to my spot now, because like I said, I've just made noise of the first two, I'm literally just going to put my cup to the water and I'm going to empty the corn like that. No noise, so hopefully it's not creating any sort of weird bites. But the beauty about the carbon stem is how I'm laying my rigging. So what I was trying to show you just then is I can see bites now all the way down. If anything grabs that, I'm going to get an indication. If you use a wire stem float, your float cocks straight away, and what that means is you can't see any bites on the way down. I have really dotted this float down, so I'm hopeful that you can still see it on camera. I always forget that. I always think that it's a bit harder to see on camera. So this time we've not got any weird bites. We snuck the bait in, but there's definitely fish around. And let's say we now got to our 30 seconds, what we'd do is we'd lift up again and we'd just lower it in, trying to see if we can get some attention to one to follow it on the way down. What you find with that shotting pattern all spaced out is they can quite often just follow all the way down, just as it touches bottom, and then they grab it. So that's what we're hoping for. Let's hope in the next couple of minutes or so we can see if we can catch a carp and actually get it in this time. There we go. That took about 2 or 3 minutes, I'm going to say, but hopefully one thing you noticed on the camera is that had it literally just before it got to the bottom. And that's what I'm saying about the importance of having that strung out shotting pattern and keep lowering that rig in. I fished away for, like I said, perhaps 2 minutes. I probably lowered the rig 3 or 4 times in that period of time, just about catching their eye. Like I said, it is very different in the summer, and perhaps there's a whole nother match masterclass to come back when I'm summer fishing, because literally like 3 months ago, I fished a match at over 200 pounds, fed 8 tins of corn, is all I fed, so it works all year round, but you just have to be a little bit different. Oh, that was terrible netting. A little bit different with the way you go. You know, in the summer, you can just be really aggressive, feed loads of bait, and catch absolutely load of fish. But there we go. Let's have a proper look at him. Hooked nicely. And yeah, that was all on the drop. That's the importance of getting that little bit of visual, and then they grab it. Such a good way of fishing, such a good bait. And if you're out there on the pole or even on the waggler, doing it like that is definitely well worth a try. But that's a fish already. Let's slip this one back and let's talk about another way in which you can use corn effectively. Absolutely never seems to amaze me how attractive corn is and how quick they react to it. It's a little bit frustrating sometimes when you're filming, because I could 100% go out there and catch another, like there's a few bubbles coming up, but we want to show you other ways of fishing with it that are just as effective. And like I said, if you are a corn angler, definitely get out there and give it a go any time of the year, because it is so effective. Right, second way of doing it is this absolute slop in here. For me, this is my favourite way of fishing corn, especially when it comes to winter. Perhaps not in the summer, but this is just liquidized corn. I've put it through a blender. I've not been really careful to get every little bit out of it, because I do want a couple of little morsels in there, sort of a few bits of skin, the odd little grain. But what I do just before I go fishing with it is I'll add perhaps, you know, just a pinch of whole sweet corn in there, because I do want something for them to eat. But this might be messy, but the carp absolutely love it. It's a complete flavour trail, and it only really works in shallow water. So fishing against islands, down sort of a shallower edge, which is where we're going to do it to our left today, those are the places where this is really good. I'd say under 3 foot of water. It's really important to have a shallow depth when you're fishing or feeding corn like this, because if not, you're just going to create an awful lot of mess in your swim. There's another carp, they're everywhere. But elastic wise is orange slick again. 016 mainline. I've got a mudline 0.3 gram, and it's quite a positive float. It's got quite a thick bristle, so it's a little bit more positive than where you're fishing in open water. Everything's the same, but slightly more positive. So thick bristle to try and avoid line bites in the shallow water. Shotting pattern again the same, a spread out bulk, but more condensed towards the end of the rig. I still want to get that little bit of fall as the bait's going in, but I don't want it to be wafting around in such shallow water. A 4-inch hook link, and again, a large hook. And just before I go out there, I want to talk to you about actually hooking corn. It might sound really simple, and you're like, do I need to look about how to hook corn? But there's 2 ways to do it, and you can get different results out of them. So the first way is to go through the top of the grain, and what you do by doing it like that is you hook through 2 points of skin, so that stays on really well. If you're fishing shallow, or in shallow water and you're striking at line bites, you can get a couple of strikes at it. Me just pulling at it there, it's on there pretty well. Where on the flip side, if you wanted to make sure you're definitely striking out of the bait, it's really cold, every bite's important, just hooking it through the end, man, makes such an easier bait to strike through. So you're just pulling it off there, that there's no resistance at all. So just think about how you're trying to fish. Are you getting a few fish in your swim? Do you want to make sure you strike it out? All things to think about. I'm just going to go through the end of the grain, so I've got 2 points of skin contact. Just before I go out there, what I'm going to do is, because we're fishing 30 metres, I'm now going to take off a few sections of my pole, because we don't need all those. We're just going to fish down the edge, and I'm going to fill up my pot. Now, I will be honest with you, I've filled up, or I've put a pot of this down there just before we started that first talking bit about fishing longer. So that's quite important to make sure that you do feed it. So I did give this one a little bit of a feed, although that first one out there we didn't. Down the edge here, I felt, because it was, it's getting a little bit cold, I needed a bit of attraction there. But I would say it's not going to take too long for something to go down. So I'm going to pot it in there, and although I've liquidized it, it is actually, you know, it does go down quite well. It goes down in the bowl because you're dropping it out of a pot. It does go down nicely, which means that you just get that little bit of flavour, a little bit of traction, and then there's really not much to eat. I think the best thing about corn, certainly in this time of year, pellets are great, but you can overfeed them, where I think liquidized corn and stuff like that, it gives you a little bit of leeway in being able to feed a bit of attraction, a bit of smell, but you're not overfeeding the fish. There's a swell just at the back of my rig there. There's definitely a few fish there. Like I said, it's really good with a positive float that hopefully we can read any line bites, ignore those, and then we're waiting for a real positive bite. Normally, to be fair, when you're fishing corn, bites are mega. They're really positive. So any little indications we're going to ignore, and we're waiting for a really positive bite, and then hopefully we're going to be playing a carp. There's a chance that, although we're not, you know, we're not edge fishing because we're about 3 or 4 foot off the bank, but we are down in that shallow water. There's a chance it could be a little bit bigger. That one's nearly jumped out, and I've just lowered that rigging again. So about a minute fishing, I'll lower that rigging again to still get that little bit of, oh, do you see that made a difference there? Got a little indication as I've lowered the rig in. So same as we were further out, just that last little bit, you can catch their attention and get a bite. But let's see how long it takes us to catch one down here, and let's see, ooh, if they're a little bit bigger maybe as well. What a bite that was. That like almost pulled the pole out of my hand at one point. Just real positive. And yeah, I absolutely love liquidized corn. Like, it's definitely something that's overlooked, and I've already said it. I think corn in general is overlooked. And this, you know, I'm going to be honest with you, I overlooked it for many, many years. You know, I think corn's one of those baits that if you've had a good day on it, you sort of get your confidence and you realise how good it is. But until you've had that sort of day where the fish just go loving it, then I understand that it feels like quite a positive bait. You know, pellets, stuff like that, they do feel in the mind that they're more attractive, but we all know carp love sweetcorn, and you know, not just carp. We had a skimmer first cast, so not just carp as well, but everything loves a bit of corn. And I think this is going to be, well, it's certainly putting up a fight that's going to be a bigger fish, although it's not massive. Perhaps it's got a bit of energy for, like I said, it is quite a nice day, and you're surprised that yesterday was actually quite warm as well, which is why I think the fishing's been quite good so far. Is just a couple of degrees in temperature gain makes a huge difference with how they fight and how they feed. So there we go. That's another one, and calm down. We'll have a look at it. If you're probably talking £4, you wouldn't need many of those in a match situation. Calm down. Here we go. Common as well. Both of them being commons. But yeah, that is a very, very good way of fishing with corn. Because it is my favourite way, I can't resist slipping this one back, catching a few more, and then we'll have a look at a rod and line way of fishing as well. So if you're not all pole anglers, next, this one's going to be for you. I really must stop. I get really carried away because that has been just ridiculously good. Like I said, it's a real nice way of fishing. Probably my favourite way of fishing corn in shallow water. It feels like summer today, you know, it's warm, the sun popped out, and the fishing has just been as good. If you've never been here before, this is Topcroft. I highly recommend giving it a go. Like I said, I don't fish this enough, but yeah, there's an awful lot of fish in here and you can catch all year round. But let's turn our attention away from the pole now. I know a lot of you don't like using poles, that's absolutely fine. We've already touched on you could waggler fish how we first started, so that method with a few bits of corn. But there is one way when it gets really cold, so luckily we're not in that situation today, but when it gets really cold, something, if you're looking for like 2 or 3 bites in a match, it's really overlooked, but it is just fishing double corn and casting it around on a lead, no feed, and just trying to find out where those fish are. You can then take it on to the next step, which I'm going to show you in a moment, but let's just look through the rod and the reel and everything. So we've got a 10-foot feeder rod, 4,000 reel, nice and lightweight setup. You're looking to see those bites. You want to make sure that you've got a real nice light setup. 6-pound main line onto a lead clip. This is how I try and fish most of my setups on the straight lead if I can. This is a lead clip that's just housed inside there. So lead clips on to the actual lead clip. I've got a nice light lead that I'm just dropping inside this lead clip. That goes over there, and then inside there I've got a swivel which is semi-fixed, so that just pops in and out of there, and that means you can change your hook link nice and quick if you need to. And then hook bait wise, we are just going with double corn. So all we need there, and a real good way, another one that a lot of people don't do, is actually hair rigging it with a bait band. So I've got 2 pieces of corn here. I'm going to pop those on to there, and my hook link is about 10 inches. But what you do is you need a little hook on your baiting needle. You just stretch out the band and slide the corn on and then let it go. That then expands and it sits like that. And honestly, double corn is absolutely mega when you're just trying to catch a fish, 1 fish at a time. And what you do with this is try and cast it in likely looking areas. Now, obviously this lake is a little bit different because it is quite an open expanse of water. So more it's about where I've seen fish showing. So just over to my right, not too far out, just about there, we've seen plenty of fish activity. And the way to fish this 100% is just cast it around. I've got a stopwatch here on my side tray. Start your stopwatch and just give it 5 minutes. See if you get any liners, anything like that. Try and keep a good close eye on your tip, and you're trying to find the fish. So this is a real good way of trying to find them. You're looking for any sort of indication to see if there is a fish in the area. If there's not, 5 minutes somewhere else, and you can move and you can try and find the fish that way. And like I said, when it's really cold, this works mega. When you're trying to catch, like I said, 2-3 fish, that's when it comes alive. But the thing I said you can take to the next level, this is something I never see people do, is same way as you'd fish a straight lead, but oh, there we go. We've had a little bit of an indication already. So maybe we did cut, I mean, like I said, there's a lot of fish showing out there, but what you can do is away from where you're fishing, you can just try and build a little swimmer. So in a catapult, sort of 6-7 grains of corn, and just put those in. So that's a little bit shorter than where I'm fishing. And every 5 minutes, every time I cast, I'll just put a little pouch of those out. So that's how you can build an area. But certainly, like I said, first of all, what you want to do is you want to try and find out where they are. Like I said, I've already had one sort of indication on my tip. So hopefully there's a few fish around. And a little honorary mention here, something, I know this has all been about corn, how cheap it is. Here I have got flavoured sweet corn as well from Dynamite. So this is the Dynamite sweet corn in Scopex. They do loads of different flavours, and really, although I didn't put it on this cast, when you're casting it about like that, if you want an extra bit of attraction, a little bit of colour as well, you can get some flavoured stuff. So it's well worth it. Yes, it's a little bit more expensive, I know that, but just a little tub, that absolutely smells amazing. So if I don't have anything this cast, what I'll do is I'll probably wind in, I'll put a couple of grains of that on just to see if it makes a difference. So a little bit different to what everyone else is doing. Like I said, everyone is out there using corn. Sometimes a flavoured bit can make a real difference. But yeah, so the way to fish this is be patient. Like I said, if you're trying to put a weight together, you're going to be doing what we just done in the shallow water. You're going to be feeding a lot. But this is certainly a way that can, when it gets really cold, can make a difference. And like I said, all the while, just think about that other swim, building it up. We'll put 5 or 6 grains out, back over to that similar spot. And then if we don't have anything within 2 or 3 casts just on the double Sweetcorn, then we'll try a little cast over the top of where we've been building up a peg, and it can be absolutely deadly. So let's give this, it's been in there just over 3 minutes. I'm going to give this a couple more minutes. I'm going to wind it in, try a bit of flavoured corn, move it about. And like I said, hopefully we'll have one like that. And then after that, we'll try on that little bit that we've been priming. So let's see what happens in the next couple of minutes before we move around. Just coming up to 8 minutes now, so a little bit longer than I said, but I did have that one little bit of indication. So what I'm going to do is just going to come back in and I'm going to change to the flavoured Sweetcorn just to see if it makes a difference. Like I said, you wouldn't believe the pulling power of 2 bits of corn in the middle of nowhere, but like you are trying to cast it where you think fish are going to be, up against islands, stuff like that, natural places where fish sit. Really, really good way of doing it. So I'm just going to move it. So we didn't have anything where we were. We had that one little indication. I'm just going to go like 4 or 5 foot to the left of that, and we'll give that a go. It's all about searching it out and trying to find those 1 or 2 bites in a match where everyone else is feeding loads of bait and stuff like that might not have that opportunity. Like I said, the pulling power of 2 bits of corn, definitely don't underestimate it. And all the while think about that other one, your slightly more positive line, drip 5 or 6 more bits of corn over it, because potentially if they're having a bit of a feed, that's the way to catch them. But I'm desperate to catch one just on these 2 bits in the middle of nowhere, because I want to show you how good it can be. And I've said it many times, when it's really cold and really hard, this is the one that I'd be doing. There we go, trust in your 2 grains of corn. To be fair, it took a little bit longer than I was hoping for, considering the fish are definitely feeding today. But like I said, this is more about when you're trying to get 1 or 2 bites, casting the right spot. It took probably 3, 4 casts and moved it around, and then got a few little indications, felt I was where a pocket of fish was sitting, and it picked it straight up. And it was on the flavoured corn as well. So yeah, it's amazing how literally just 2 grains of corn can have all the attraction you need if you put it in the right place. But I honestly think that while I was doing that, I was priming up that corn line like you would if you were fishing with pellets, and I think that is going to be even quicker and even better. And like I said, it's something that people very, very rarely do. I don't know why. I've said it, loads of people do it with pellets, but very rarely do it with corn. And as the temperature's cool, that's the way forward. But yeah, I mean, I think we've picked the best filming day you could ask for temperature wise. It feels like you should be just coming out of summer, but there we go. That is what you're looking for. And if you are looking for 2 or 3 bites, fish like that is all you need. A bit of patience, move it around, cast it in like looking areas, and the rewards can be there. But let me see if I can unhook that one. I'll have a quick look at it. Is it going to let us have a look at it? There we go. Perfect. That is all you need. 3 of those in a tough match and you are flying. But like I said, let's slip that back and let's try and see if anything is over where we've been feeding that corn. I think they will be. Like I said, they're definitely eating today. This couple of days of warmth has made a huge difference. Now, what I'm going to do is, like I say, I'm going to go for the flavoured corn again as well, because it's a little bit tougher. It just stays on a little bit better when I'm casting. So, same as before, I'm going to go through 1 grain, through another, and I'm going to get my bait band, stretch it out with the latch and the needle, and then that expands into the bait. That is all we're going to need. Now, to get it right, if you've seen pellet waggler fishing and straight lead fishing, what you do is, just so you know roughly where you're casting, because it's hard when you're not casting up against anything, 5 or 6 grains of corn, where I've been fishing, there we go, and it just gives you a visual reference. And then all you're trying to do is drop that right in the rings of those 3 offerings where you've been feeding for the last few minutes while you're waiting for that bite. So let's see if a little bit of feeding has encouraged them. I think this is going to be quicker than just casting around, as if we're fishing like when it's frosty and they don't want to eat anything. That's when what I just done would be one of my favourite things to do, like when you're looking for fish that don't really want to eat but they can't resist picking up something when you put it right in front of them. That's out there nicely. Don't move it. Be really careful not to move your lead. I'm going to put a couple more grains of corn out there. Then we're going to start the stopwatch. And I'm going to give it, what am I going to give it? 6 minute cast. Let's try that. 6 minutes. And if not, we'll just do the same again, reposition it, but let's hope it swings around within that time frame. That was better, lots quicker. Definitely responded to that bait today. And I think it just proves how effective corn can be. So if you've not got it in your bait bag, or you didn't have any confidence with it, hopefully one of those methods is going to be suitable for you. You know, you've had that literally straight out of the tin, fishing just like a few grains, make some noise, a light rig, lay it through. You've got the sloppy corn, the corn mush down in shallow water, or if you're a rod and line angler, then you've got a couple of different ways to do it, like I've shown today. When it gets mega cold and frosty, get those 2 grains out where they are and you will catch them. If they want a bit of bait, don't be afraid of giving them a little bit with a catapult like you would with a straight lead. But I think for this episode, that is all we need to show you. Like I said, it's very, very different if you're fishing in summer, and perhaps that leads a whole different match masterclass for corn in the summer, like really positive down the edge. When you hear people saying they're sort of fed 8-10 tins, which sounds loads of bait, but corn's so digestible. And actually, if you put that into like perspective of if when you're fishing like pellets, you know, 8 tins of corn probably isn't even a kilo of pellets, is it? So sounds a lot, but not necessarily mean that it's absolutely loads. So that's potentially to come in the summer. Let's get this one unhooked and show you as the last one. The biggest fish to end on. That's a nice way to end, isn't it? And that was not coming out. I wanted that, but there we go. There we go. One to end on. I hope that some of that has made sense for you, giving you a bit of inspiration to get out with a tin of corn and see what you can catch. But hopefully you enjoyed it. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button, and we'll see you again very soon on the next Match Masterclass.